Hi, everyone. We are back with the Janelle Show, and I am here with Twila True. I am so excited to introduce you guys to my guest, Twila, because Twila True currently serves as the Chief Executive Officer and co-founder of True Family Enterprises, a privately held investment firm developed to create, manage its own companies. With over 50 companies in its portfolio, several of the core businesses are True Lane Homes, Twila True Fine Jewelry Watches, Volume, 1500 Sound Academy, and so much more. Twila, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much, Janelle. It's so nice to be here. Thank you for having me.
I am just so excited. You do so much. How do you get all this stuff done?
Oh, some days I wonder.
So, y'all.
Some days I wonder, but I have to tell you, I have to be honest. Women in general, we hold so many titles, always have. So yeah, I really give a lot of credit to that.
That's true. That's true. But a lot of people can't juggle and manage all the different things that you're doing. So please, kudos to you. Definitely. How did you start this business?
So I started out, I didn't have the opportunity for a higher education. I had to figure it out quick because the choices, weren't good, right? And so you either conform and accept. For me, I just didn't want to be poor and, broke the rest of my life. That's a good incentive. I, I didn't want to marry for my security. I saw some friends where that didn't work out so much because your destiny is just kind of hitched and all your eggs are, to say in that basket. So that was really my motivation. I didn't know what it was or how it was. I just thought I'm just going to keep cracking at this and give it all I got.
I like that. I definitely like that. So, what made you go into this type of business? Can you walk through the
Sure.
timeline of how this happened?
Yep. So I had no clue at the beginning, is the honest truth. I tried so many things. So I knew that I didn't want to be poor, as I mentioned. I didn't want to hitch my wagon to someone else. Didn't have higher education opportunities. So what could I do? What I did is as I started to do different jobs and different positions, I started to understand and identify, okay, where's the finances? Where's the money? How am I going to, if I want to support myself, how do I support myself? And what am I good at? What can I sort of understand? So I took different positions and started to understand, oh, okay, well, a company makes money. Somebody owns that business. Every single business has a sales position, an operating, and finance. I mean, that was no matter what the widget, what the service, there were those key components. So I thought, okay, well, let me kind of understand each one of these. And I started out ground level. My very first job was at a hot dog stand. And what I understood from that, but no matter what it wasn't a bad thing. It was a learning experience.
Of course, of
It
course.
was a learning experience of, okay, how does this business work? Oh, they sell a hot dog at a time. They have to advertise, someone's got to sell them, all the key things I talked about. So although you have to start out somewhere, everybody does. I just use that one for the next stepping stone until one day you're manager of a business that has 3 employees. So what? It's still a manager of 3 employees. And the next position, you're starting out at a sales position and it's a small, so that's really how I did it. Is I learned, I built, and then I moved. I learned, I built, and I moved.
I like it. I like it. So, since this is part of the women of color versus the wealth gap, when you think of shrinking the wealth gap, what comes to mind? Because you're doing a lot of things that a lot of people would not typically do, right? Most people, they finish high school, they go to college, they get a job, blah, that's the end of it, right? But you've
Yeah.
decided to pivot and do something different. So, what is your thoughts on shrinking the wealth gap?
It's going to take us some time, and we've just started our journey. Why? Because it's been so long, right? And we're really the last of all of the groups that this is really going to touch. And when I say why it might be a little while, but all of us want to shorten that. If you look at if we just go back 3, 4 generations, and then everything before that, it only goes bad to worse, right? It goes from not allowed to vote, not allowed to drive, not allowed to you couldn't support yourself, to you couldn't have a job, to okay, you can have an education. And so we're now at the point that a lot of people will say, okay, well, you can have an education, you can drive, you can vote. That doesn't mean that it shrinks that position of so many generations going back. And what will shrink it is females really working together and saying, okay, what can I do today? What I can do today is I can talk to that 5-year-old, 10-year-old, 20-year-old, 30-year-old, 40-year-old. And hopefully the first thing is we need more of us, because we just need to be an example. I mean, you and I didn't grow up where you saw a female president, you saw female CEOs. Mom didn't do it.
Right.
So the first thing is being that example. And I think once we have that example, now it's up to us to really reach back behind us and around us to all of our female partners and say, okay, I know, I understand part of where you're at, and let me share my journey with you. Let me share where I messed up, and let me share where I succeeded.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. There's so many different factors, because when you think of the wealth gap, you think of not only gender, but you also think of color as well, right? So there's been things that laws have been created against us that we can't pursue additional funding that other people have been able to get. So I'm just wondering from you, I believe you're Native American, is that correct?
I'm not, I am a member of the Ogallala Sioux tribe, and I don't know who my father is. So there could be all kinds of things in there. But I am a registered Ogallala Sioux.
Perfect. The reason I mentioned that is because I wanted to ask you, for people who, my family I'm first generation American. So people that come into this country, they are able to create businesses and prosper better, in my opinion, than people who have been here, say Black Americans or Native Americans. What are your thoughts on that?
Yes, I agree with that. And again, I believe it goes back to the very simplest terms for me, because there could always be a lot of heat around, different positions people will take on, well, but you have opportunity, and, it's not my fault. And it's not anyone's, fault. It's just history, right? It's just a factual journey. And I can speak to my factual journey. And my factual journey is, I got dolls, or I got a kitchen set, or I got an ironing set. My factual journey is, I never saw a female example. My factual journey is that I had to act differently as a female walking in a room than, my male friends. So nobody can take away our factual journeys. Nobody can take away my factual journey. My factual journey says that if I walked into a boardroom early on for CEO or GM of my first company at 27, I was too young. I was too pretty. I was the only person who wasn't a white male sitting at this table. What I learned I'm going to be 53 now. What I learned in my personal journey is, when I walked into that boardroom, a male could walk in, and when he walked in, he was looking to get points. How did he get points? He made off-color jokes. He swore and said bad words. He poked fun of other people, and he gained points for that. Now, if I try to walk in and do that, if my skirt was too short, if I wore red shoes, if I swear, If I say, anything and I lose points. So I always walked in with an opportunity to lose points, not gain them, where the person next to me was gaining points. So I learned that navigation early on. And is it fair? Absolutely not. But I learned the rules, or I learned how. I knew I didn't like them, but saying anything wasn't going to help me either, because nobody wanted the angry female also. So there's all these things. Then later in life, and to my success today, I would say that then I learned, okay, if I don't want anyone to take away my points, and it's unfair that he gets to gain them like this. But I have a little magic opportunity, which is I have some points that are given to me, which is I am more intuitive. I am more sensitive. I can understand emotion and feelings, and I am usually sought after as more trustable than him.
Yeah. No, definitely. And I make a joke. I have a friend and I make a joke with her all the time. I typically work with women clients, and I had a male client, and I said, girl, I got to go talk to my man client. Let me put some lipstick on. Because I'm going to Zoom him right now. And it's just that extra little step that he's like, oh, you're looking nice today on the Zoom.
Yeah, and we smile and we say, thank you.
Thank you.
So true.
So yeah, using that feminine essence, right? That ability to get things without saying a whole lot of words. And I think a lot of us women have to learn how to master that.
We have to learn how to master that, because it's, again, if we take a position of it's not fair, or we don't like it, or that's great, but you'll be in a position by yourself, right, arguing that point, where just get there, just get there, knowing it's not fair along the way, using the feminine gifts that we have. And then when you get there, now you can change the rule book.
Right. Follow the rules until you can make your own.
Yep. Very good. Love that.
That's wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. So, okay, so you work in the job, 27, and then you decide you're going to come out on your own. You're going to start your own business. How did we get to that point?
Well, so 27, and then I do the journey that most women do, which is at 27, I got married at 30. Around that time, most women look at their clock, their lifetime, their journey, right? And most of us have to time out, which is another unfair thing. So for us, I had my thing, my husband had our thing. Someone set us up to say, you both are workaholics, are super boring, you should, get married. So we do. We look and we decide, well, I need a time out, because only one of us can give birth. So
unfortunately,
unfortunately, one of us can do this. When you look at the journey as a person, male or female, well, everyone will agree, and that's the most important thing of all of it. But yet you got a time out. It doesn't give you credit. You can't put it on your resume. And so we said, look, you know what? So we moved to Asia. We said, okay, this company over here, let's support it. We moved to Asia. I go to Taiwan. He goes to China. We create this consumer goods business together. I have 3 kids between 30 and 35. Still working in the business on the accounting operational side. And then you come back. And so every female's journey is then, as you decide to do this very important thing in your life, you have to pause. Now, fortunately, I owned my companies. And so when I came back in, I can come in at any point that I want. It was mine. But for most women, they time out in their career. And so they're working there's Joe and there's Mary, but Joe gets to keep showing up while he's having kids, and Mary has to time out. And
Right.
then Mary comes back when she's 35, and Joe's already at a C position.
Right.
He's already a vice president position or a C-level position. Mary has to start right where she left off.
Right.
And that's so I come back at 30, at 35, 36. We had created our wealth, and now we have several different verticals. Finance and real estate is really what he's great at. For me, consumer goods, entertainment, talent.
Mm-hmm.
So I spend most of my time now with Twila True collaborations, Volume 1500, which is entertainment. We have some studios in Inglewood, largest jeweler in Newport Beach, just opened my second store in Resorts World in Volume. So those are sort of my verticals that I work on today.
Got it. Got it. I like it. I definitely like it. It made me think, okay, so after, 36. Okay, so here's my question. I was trying to formulate what my question was, and here it is. Okay, so most people are not in entrepreneurship, but what I'm hearing you say is that the way to kind of shrink this wealth gap, a big part of it is to be in entrepreneurship, because it kind of helps you create your own timeline for this. You can kind of shrink the timeline for when you're having children. You can be at home, but you're still kind of doing your own thing. That way, you don't have to you don't have to worry about getting to the C level, with the time delay. So, my question is, how do women typically do this? So how should they be doing this? Should they go into entrepreneurship, or should they be still committed to their jobs?
So when you time out, or how do we shrink the wealth gap? Right. When I look at women across the spectrum, there are positions, when I get resumes, there are positions that they're lined up for, and there are positions that they're not. And the positions that they're not are usually the highest paying positions. What is that? Sales, finance, or owning your own business, and I collaborate or partner with you somehow. Receptionist, all of these other areas that the pile is really high. And I think that now goes back to a son had an example as a father who was a salesman. A son had an example of a woman, of a man who was a CPA or owned his own business. If you look at sales is what I found is, for sales, sometimes it's difficult for women because as a gender, if we talk too much, it's bad. If we know too much and know more, than the guy, it can be bad. It can, you have all these, don't be that loud girl, don't. And so sales is a part of sales is conversing, like we are. It's not used car salesman. Nobody wants that. It's really, and sales goes into business development, sales, all of this factor. So sales shrinks the wealth gap, and learning more about that. Finance, more women understanding how many times do we hear of divorces, and the girl doesn't understand the checkbook, the banking.
I literally had this conversation the other night. It was a 3-hour conversation. And my friend was like, you totally need a podcast series on this. I'm sure you heard about the Dr. Dre and his ex-wife scenario that was happening.
I did not know.
So he took some masters, took it out of her name. When they got a divorce, she couldn't get anything. It was a whole mess. And so he's worth a couple $1 billion. He did wanted to give her a couple $1,000, it seems like. And so the topic was women knowing what their rights are, what their laws are in their states, knowing what they're entitled to, knowing if they sign a prenup, what they should be able to get. There's so many things that women just don't have the knowledge around, and just kind of trusting their men to be able to handle for them. And maybe not necessarily all men may not have their best intentions at heart.
Mm-hmm. That is that is a huge problem, right? Where it's generational, and we have to stop that in
Mhm.
with our daughters and with the next generations. But there's no point in which it's too late. I mean,
Right.
we're lifetime learners, right? It doesn't stop at any age. I make it a point to learn something every single day. And anything that affects my life, I need to understand. I need to take control of, or else I can't complain about it, or I can't even cry about it if I don't at least desire to learn or ask at some point. And it doesn't mean I'm going to kill it. It doesn't mean I'm going to burn the house down. It just means that I want knowledge
Right.
and baby steps of that knowledge. And, the old adage is knowledge is power, but it really is, because once you just at least know and understand, then now when you go into a relationship, at least you understand, at least you had a participation in understanding the outcomes.
Right.
Otherwise, you were blind. You're just blind to the whole thing. And that's how we got here.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So much into that. Definitely so much into that. So I would just like two things from you more. Any advice that you would have for the ladies listening that can inspire them, help them? What advice would you have for them?
The advice that I would have is that there's so much opportunity. I promise you that we are equal in sense of what we can do, what we can learn, and our knowledge. We are superior in the things that I mentioned before, what we add to that.
Mhm.
Intuition, and understanding an environment of people and trust. So if you just gain the knowledge and then you add those pieces, there's just there really it is at an all-time limitless point that I've seen as a 53-year-old woman taking a journey, and I've been in business for, the last 35 years.
Yeah, I like that. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Twila, this was amazing. How, if anybody wants to connect with you, how can they connect with you? Are you on social medias, your websites? Please share with us.
I am on social media. I can't even tell you. I mean, I guess if you look up Twila True on my Instagram, Twila True Family Enterprises.com. I get mail there. And I'm just so grateful for the interview. And it's people like us who share the knowledge and experience, and just want nothing but to grow wealth gaps and opportunity for women.
Thank you so much. And everybody, Twila's links will be in the show notes down below. Thank you so much for being here with us
Thank you
today.
so much.
You're welcome. And thank you guys for listening to The Janelle Show.